All right, so I just wanted to thank you guys all for attending this presentation. It's great to be here, and I hope that you're going to learn a lot today. First, just a little bit about me. My name is Carol Chang, and I'm an occupational therapist in Jacksonville, Florida. I own an accessible home mods business called Evolving Homes. I specialize in creating beautiful spaces for people who want to age in place. This is my husband and my in-laws. So my journey into the Parkinson's community started a few years ago when my father-in-law was diagnosed with Parkinson's after a fall. I felt pretty sad about his diagnosis because even though I had a lot of experience treating complex neurological patients, all right, there's my family right there. So as I was saying, I was really pretty sad that when I heard that he had Parkinson's, because I really didn't have a lot of experience treating them or treating them successfully. OTs train on dressing and fine motor skills, but overall, they didn't feel like it had made any kind of lasting impact. So I found that really frustrating not to have anything to offer them in any significant way. So I'm going to back up for a second and tell you a little bit more about me. I grew up in a tiny little town in northern Manitoba, and it's so remote that the closest McDonald's is about a 10-hour drive. And it's really cold, so much that we have blizzards still in May. So I'm sure you can all understand why I live in Florida now. So at that time, my goal was to move to a really big city and go to a well-known university where I could learn from the best. McGill is Canada's oldest university, and they're known for their cutting-edge research. I was also a competitive swimmer, so I swam for McGill. I trained 20, 30 hours a week in addition to my full-time studies. And the track coach there had an office next to my coach. And when he had an injured runner, he'd send them to the pool to train with us. And that's how I met Melanie Lomaglio 25 years ago. After we graduated, we lost touch until a chance meeting about 13 years ago when I was on maternity leave for my son. She was a mentor for my PT partner's neuroresidency. And on that day, she just happened to sit at my empty desk. So she noticed my picture and she recognized me. And it's just a crazy coincidence that after all these years, we were now both living in northern Florida. So Melanie and her husband, David, they run a specialized Parkinson's clinic in St. Augustine called STARS Rehab. Melanie is well known as an expert in the field of Parkinson's. When I reached out to her, she encouraged us to come see her at her clinic. She told me there'd been a lot of changes in the treatment of Parkinson's disease in recent years, and she'd had a lot of success treating patients with targeted exercises. I was intrigued, so I met my in-laws in St. Augustine for the visit. I was completely blown away by what I learned that day. So a few months later, I got my certification to be a Parkinson's wellness recovery therapist as well. I came home from that course so excited to have such a powerful tool in my arsenal. I teach the power exercises to all my patients, not just the ones with Parkinson's. I've had chronic back patients who are finally pain-free, joint replacement patients who can get back to their normal activities. Kristen Gray, who runs the Jacksonville Rocksteady group, asked me to teach power exercises to her boxers on Zoom. And I taught these guys how to use power moves to get down on the floor and then back up again, completely on their own and on Zoom, no less. So it was empowering for them to realize they could do it without help. And the training left them feeling like they could move more easily, they could breathe better, they could stand up straighter. So as you see in this slide earlier, this is the picture what most people think, right? When they hear Parkinson's, they see the tremors, the slowness of movement, the freezing. Do I have patients that fall into this category? Absolutely. But look at this list. Does every Parkinson's patient you know have every symptom? Definitely not. So the challenge of designing for a Parkinson's patient is identifying which of these symptoms will most affect their ability to move around in their home safely. It's sometimes not as obvious as you would think. We're not designing ADA spaces that need to accommodate everyone from 5'0" to 6'8". We're designing for real people. We have to make the environment fit the person instead of expecting the person to adjust into their environment. So our task is to zero in on exactly what adjustments this unique individual needs to function at their very best. It's like targeted medication therapy, right? A broad spectrum antibiotic is going to be better than nothing, but if you really want to take care of the problem, you have to find the exact strain to find the right antibiotic. So what questions can help guide us to this best solution? We have to ask good questions to find out how this person lives in their personal spaces. We have to find out what things are non-negotiable when it comes to preferences. We have to dig and find out what makes this person happy. Our home is our sanctuary, and it's important to respect this when we're making recommendations. So I've chosen my case studies deliberately to help illustrate the variety of solutions possible based on the different challenges and different preferences that each individual has. So this is about fall prevention. And I really feel like if you are treating a fall only by addressing the physical side, you're missing out on so many opportunities to stack the deck in your favor. So let me give you an example. So patients often do therapy after a fall, right? Well, after 4 weeks of rehab in the home, they feel stronger and more confident in their steps. This is great, but what happens when therapy discharges? Patients lose their weekly exercise visits, the resulting serotonin, and it can be easy to fall back into lifestyle habits that might have contributed to that original fall. So maybe it's sitting too much or watching too much TV. Maybe it's waking up late and not taking your medications on time. Maybe it's skipping exercise class because you just don't feel like it. Maintaining our physical fitness and having the discipline to stick to a schedule is hard. You know what's easy compared to that? Home modification. The only thing you have to do is to plan for it so you can save up for it. It's the low-hanging fruit to decrease our risk of falls. So, what are the barriers to changing your house? I'm a firm believer in the ability to prevent falls is what separates us from being able to stay at home safely and needing to go to a nursing home. Environments matter. The presence or absence of home modification or home maintenance determines how well we can function in our spaces. Many of my patients have lived in their homes for more than 50 years. They've raised their kids there. They literally have a lifetime of memories, all in boxes all over the house. Oftentimes, as their mobility decreases and their medical needs increase, routine home maintenance is the first thing that gets pushed aside. And over time, this deferred home maintenance list grows until the home itself becomes the monster that causes the falls. This place that used to be their paradise now has dark spaces where the ceiling lights are burned out, uneven flooring where parts of the carpet have come loose, and outdated bathrooms that are just too small for their current needs. The longer it gets put off, the more overwhelming it feels. So another reason people avoid changing the environment is that the budget for a complete bathroom remodel is about $25,000. And that's so that you can take the walls down to the studs so that you can install wood blocking for grab bars. It seems like a lot of money until you consider two things. Bathroom remodels always increase the value of a home. And if it's done beautifully, it actually increases it by almost 30%. Senior living is expensive. There's often a significant buy-in cost that can be close to $1 million and a $5,000 to $7,000 monthly maintenance fee. So if you put it another way, a 6-month stay in an assisted living facility or a 3-month stay in a skilled nursing facility, it would have already covered the cost of a barrier-free bathroom. So much to organize. So I think we can all agree that no matter who you are, your statistics of falling are going to be significantly reduced if you have open spaces and are organized enough to find what you need when you need it, right? We can all benefit from decluttering and from being organized because it makes us feel less burdened by our own spaces. So my goal today is to teach you how to create those optimal environments to allow you to be as free as possible. I will be using real case studies of consultations I've done in my home modification practice to help illustrate the variety of solutions that there are out there. I just want to say I have the best patients in the world. When I asked permission to share their experiences with home mods, every one of them agreed immediately. It just shows how wonderfully supportive the Parkinson's community is with doing anything they can to help another person. So big thank you to my case study subjects for allowing me to use your stories. So the first case study is a client who lived with his wife in a historic home with narrow hallways and doors. He had just enough space to propel his wheelchair and walker through the doorways and down the hallways. So he didn't feel like he needed to make any big adjustments. He struggled with freezing gait, falls due to a loss of balance, and needing to get up 3 to 5 times a night to use the bathroom. Our primary objective was to find a way to decrease his risk of falls from freezing. So after consulting with Melanie, we came up with the idea to use the strips of painter's tape on the floor in the living room. In this video, I put down the tape, but he was given no instructions. And this is his usual walking pattern. Awesome. Come sit in this chair right here behind me, okay? Keep coming. Keep coming, Mr. Bill, right here. I want you to come sit over here. Okay. Yes, please. Nice big steps. Remember, weight shift. 1, 2. There you go. You want to sit in that chair over there, Bill? All right. So in this one, he was given instructions, just try to step on the blue lines. But it was the first time he tried it. So watch what happens when you add visual cueing to this. Oh, holy cow, look at that. Let's go. Very nice. Come on, hit the blue line for me. Go. Stomp on the blue line. Nice. Stomp. Stomp. Let's get some feedback in there. Yes. Very good. Oh my God. Okay, all right. So you can see how the results are immediate, but the carryover is limited once our railroad tracks ended. So as with anything, the more practice he got using visual cues, the more natural it came to him. So to decrease the risk of falls, we expanded our railroad to include living room to kitchen, bedroom to bathroom, bedroom to TV room. The use of visual cues enabled him to return to helping his wife with doing dishes and light cooking. So not everyone's into blue lines all over their house. So there are other options to achieve this. The U-step and the next stride are both about $500, and they have auditory and visual cues to keep the feet moving. The cues are built into the U-step walker, whereas the next stride is portable and can be mounted on a walker or a cane or urban poles. U-step's covered by Medicare, and the next stride is covered by the VA. Both are eligible to be covered by the Parkinson's Foundation at varying amounts. So this is him walking. No freezing at all. So after all that practice indoors, the patient was able to walk to the beach with his wife for the first time in 9 months. It was a major milestone. All right, so a bathroom remodel design version of the blue tape would be to choose contrasting colors between the tile and the grout. So my recommendation would be to install them with a bigger than average spacer placed between the tiles so you get the visual lines that you need. And it's important to have a skilled tile guy put them down because it can be tricky to make sure each tile is completely flush. If one corner of the tile gets pushed down unevenly, down into the mortar, it's going to produce what I call a toe stumper. And Murphy's Law says that your big toe will be sure to catch it every single time, right? But more importantly, you can see how this would be a significant fall risk. An easy design idea would be to do rows of small tiles and make every third row or whatever your step distance is a different color. So you could also consider softening the edges by using progressive shades of tiles leading up to the step line. If stripes are not your favorite shape, you could consider installing round or square tiles instead that would serve as a target for the foot. You need to know what the your target step distance is. So I would recommend putting down some painter's tape for a few weeks until you figure out what the most natural step distance is for that person. One thing to remember is that the impact of the vestibular system when choosing patterns. Busy patterns will trigger dizziness. I know because I did 4 months of vestibular rehab because I had a hypofunctioning nerve in one ear. And I remember doing home visits at certain assisted living facilities that had these huge open spaces with busy patterns on the floor. I actually had to close my eyes to get across the room to avoid feeling dizzy. So not ideal for fall prevention, right? So Parkinson's patients who freeze often have difficulty getting through both physically and visually smaller spaces. So the easy solution is to declutter as much as possible around the doorway. Another possibility is to increase the physical width of the door. Swing clear hinges are an easy solution to add 2 extra inches to the door by having the door swing behind the frame, and they're about $12 each. They're mostly a 1-to-1 swap out as long as you make sure to order the correct hinge shape. If you need more than 2 inches, you could have a contractor take down the frame of the door and reframe it. That usually costs about $800. So a unique solution we tried to do was to install 12-inch grab bars on the inside of the door frame of the bedroom and bathroom that the patient could swing from. So the tactile feedback gives reassurance to decrease anxiety that can promote more freezing, and it helps to cue the patient to shift their weight forward to produce that step. 12-inch grab bars are very easy to find and inexpensive. They're about $60 if you want a high color contrast version, and they also make custom ones that look just like a banister to blend in well aesthetically. As I mentioned before, we're designing for real people. Real people can get tired of always having to use the walker to get to the bathroom that's just around the corner. The reality is that he had to get up 3 to 5 times a night to go to the bathroom. And sometimes he just didn't have the patience to use the walker every single time. The bars are our better than nothing plan. My recommendation was also to put in a magnetic door stop. And this could help keep the door wide open all night to decrease falls from having to manage the door with one hand and push the walker with the other. It may not have been the ideal solution, but it's the right one for this client because it's inexpensive and it respected his preferences. Lighting is often another issue I discuss with frequent trips to the bathroom at night. It can be tempting to leave the lights off because of not wanting to wake a spouse, but we need the light to tell our bodies where they are in space. I completely understand it's unrealistic to expect patients to flip on the bright overhead lights every single time they get up. So my solution is to install motion activated lights instead. In my mind, anything that can be automated and use less brain power, the better. So I like to start with putting a strip of LED lights under the bed that would be hardwired to an outlet. So that means that if it detects motion, the lights under the bed come on and illuminate the floor so the patients can get their feet ready. Next, I have a battery operated motion activated light that I stick underneath the toe kick in the bathroom, and it lights up the path to the toilet. I use a plug-in motion activated light in the bathroom outlet on the counter that'll produce a significant amount of light at eye level. The picture here is of a motion activated toilet light that can be programmed to any disco color you want. So every time you open a door that swings towards you, there's a risk of falls when backing up to get out of the way of the door. This is a potential solution to minimize the risk. This could also be helpful for patients with significant tremors that make opening the door difficult, even after they switch to a lever handle. All right, let's open it. All right. And close it. So this door opener is about $250, which is pretty inexpensive for automatic door openers. This one blocks the strike plate to stop the latch from engaging. And while it has a brake to stop the door from opening or swinging back, it can be moved easily by someone who wants to open the door. A traditional door opener for the front door has more complex components, which allows it to be locked. These ones run much closer to $2,500, but they're solidly built, they don't break easily. And they're also able to connect to Alexa for voice control. When I combine it with a smart lock and a Ring doorbell, patients can now see who's at the door and tell her to unlock it and open the door just by using their voice in a smartphone. The one I have set up at my house is programmed to auto lock after 10 minutes, so I don't have to look for keys to lock up behind me anymore. It's really convenient for busy mornings, And it's a safety feature for my kids when they're home alone. So the purpose of showing this example was to illustrate that a $25,000 remodel is not always necessary to make a space more functional for a Parkinson's patient. It may be non-negotiable for a spinal cord injury, but because of the variety of symptoms with Parkinson's, there exists so many more potential solutions based on the patient's goals, their preferences, their functional ability. In this case, we were able to achieve a safer space for him with just sweat equity, better lighting, few grab bars. Don't forget about our $5 roll of painter's tape. So I just want to take a minute to honor the life of a man who taught me so much about Parkinson's disease. Bill passed away unexpectedly in October last year, and because of COVID, we never got a chance to honor his life and the enormous contribution he made to the Parkinson's community in Jacksonville. Bill's dream was to start a Parkinson Center for people with Parkinson's and their caregivers. He wanted a central place where anyone could go to get help finding resources and support. I'm happy to report that a dedicated group of Bill's supporters, including his wife of 33 years, Marilyn Wilson, are actively working to bring his dream to life. And I think Bill would be so happy. This is something that Bill had used to say all the time. So Bill's Parkinson's is a relentless fighter who never slows down. It can be hard to keep from allowing it to guide your life, but it can be done. Resist the temptation to stay in bed, resist the temptation to avoid exercise class because it's raining, and resist all the other things that Parkinson's throws at you. My second case study is a client who lived alone and didn't use any assistive equipment. She was really active, but she had started to have some falls recently. She reported tripping over the sidewalk curb when she walked her dog at night, tripping over the fireplace edge in her living room, and constantly bumping into one particular corner when she walked to her bedroom. She was on a waiting list for a retirement community, but it was a 7-year waiting list, and she felt she would need the help before then. She was interested to see if we could make her home more accessible to be able to age in place there instead. Her style was modern, so there were a lot of open spaces. The floors, walls, and tiles, they were all a shade of gray. So as you saw in my previous example, visual cueing is important. In the case of the chip paint off the corners, I felt that the reason it was happening was that the Parkinson's was promoting a block-like gait where her head did not like to move left and right. As a result, she'd walk looking straight ahead only, and when she made the right turn from the living room to the hallway, she didn't perceive the wall in her peripheral vision. The solution was to find a way to bring attention to it. So a simple solution would have been to put up some colored duct tape to highlight the corner, to cue her, to pay attention to it. But I didn't think she'd go for it, given the clean lines of her immaculate home. So instead, I recommended she paint one of the walls that made up the corner a bright accent color so that the meeting point of the corner would be highlighted and it would look purposeful and blend into the decor. The same solution could be applied to the fireplace when I recommended she paint the ledge a bright color to offset the gray floor. Hallways can feel more closed in at night, and to increase her feeling of security, my recommendation was to increase the available light to decrease shadows. In this picture, the LED light strip lights are put in along the whole length of the floorboards to light it up like an airplane runway. This could be connected to a hardwired motion detector to come on automatically. If there was an outlet, you could always use a plug-in motion activated light. In this case, I would prefer installing snap power lighting instead. Snap power is an outlet cover where the plate has a motion activated light underneath it. And they cost about $30, but the advantage is that they allow access to both electrical sockets instead of giving up one for the nightlight. This is pretty useful if this is your vacuuming plug or you have a tendency to bump into it. I've also been told it's a great solution if you have patients with dementia that keep pulling out the nightlight. So every kid I know is compelled to run their hands along every single handrail they see. They're not concerned about germs like I am. They're looking for proprioception to tell them where their bodies are in space. I use the same method to give tactile feedback in any spaces that the patient might worry about a fall. I call them reassurance rails because when you run your fingers along them, you feel safe because you know it's available if you need it. It's a confidence booster. You can buy custom sizes that can be mixed and matched with different hardware and run them around corners and even use them as freestanding rails. They're great for long hallways, bedroom to bathroom, and on exterior walls to get from the front door to the car. This is the bathroom that we were talking about. It had been remodeled by a previous owner where the tub had been replaced by a shower with a 6-inch curb. She tripped on this lip before and was fearful of falling in this little space. The bathroom felt claustrophobic to her, and this anxiety was making it difficult to move freely in that space. She had a built-in shower seat in the corner, but she never used it. And she didn't feel safe having glass doors, and her preference was to have no shower curtain because of the grime. So the decision was made to make a wet room. The challenge in a small bathroom is how to make the space feel more roomy. In this before picture on the left, you can see that the entry space, it used to be a closet. They cut a hole in the back of the closet to access the shower. And there's a storage closet behind the door, and both of these doors are very narrow. The solution to increasing the feeling of spaciousness was to take out the back wall of the previous closet to make one big room. We also decided to take the closet out to create space for a wheelchair to do a lateral transfer if she needed it in the future. The original shower wall needed to be extended by 6 inches to be able to enlarge the shower footprint. And all the walls need to be pulled down to install wood blocking between the studs for future grab bars. I have many patients who sponge bathe only due to the fear of being cold. So my recommendation was to change the exhaust fan to a heat fan. There's a risk of falls when you want to rush through the drying process, and the heater would help dry the wet room floor quickly also. You can see the vanity is in the same place in both pictures. She liked her vanity for the storage. Since she was on a wheelchair, there was really no reason to install a roll under one at this time. So the plan was to remove the existing vanity just so we could put matching tile under it and then just put it right back into its original position, but that it'd be ready to convert when she needed it. In addition to a continuous line of grab bars on all 3 sides of the shower, I recommended installing a grab bar sliding bar to put the shower hose on. A lot of falls happen when patients are adjusting the temperature or tilting their heads back with their eyes closed to rinse out their hair. She wasn't interested in getting a shower chair at this time since she felt she'd never use it. So the plan instead was just to buy a removable shower chair like this one that would match the bars that she could put up later if she changed her mind. Installing grab bars into the studs as a retrofit is not as easy as it sounds. This is where planning ahead to put in wood blocking saves so much headache, and it gives so much more flexibility in where the bars can go. This is the ADA version of putting them up in the 33 to 36 high zone. I prefer wood block from the floor all the way up to 48 inches or more, depending on what I think the patient will need in the future. It'll always be just a guess when you're planning for the future, but if we can bring the space as close to what we think they're going to need later on, any changes down the road will hopefully only need to be minor adjustments. This client had an extra room that we discussed as turning into a dedicated exercise space, since exercise would be a lifelong need for Parkinson's. I recommended putting down a cushion-style gym floor where she could practice getting up and down, and installing a TV that could stream Power for Parkinson's from YouTube or log into Zoom meetings for those exercise classes. I also recommended that she get a mirror along one wall so she could use visual feedback to verify that she was making as big of a motion as she thought she was. The last example I wanted to show you was a client who had just moved to Jacksonville. They were in the middle of selling their previous home, so they weren't ready for a bathroom renovation yet, but they did have plans to renovate it down the road. She'd also been very active using a personal trainer, but due to the move and COVID, she had just started to sit more and had developed 2 pressure sores on her bottom. She was almost exclusively using the wheelchair to get around due to the risk of falls with the dystonia and standing. She had a very weak voice, was stuttering, and was difficult to understand at times. Her Parkinson's had a tendency to create the constipation, sudden evacuation cycle, and this sometimes required midday bathing to keep the wounds clean. Her primary concern was the risk of falls. She was using suction grab bars and had had several near falls when they came off the wall suddenly. She preferred to stand to bathe, but she did have a shower chair in there for safety. She was able to get through the narrow shower door, but still had a 5-inch ledge to step over, which was challenging. She had some difficulty getting up and down from the toilet, and there was a loose towel bar next to the vanity, which I recommended replacing with a grab bar towel bar that added extra stability when she was grooming. So since the grab bars are easy to remove and reattach for future renovations, it was decided to go ahead with a safety feature that she could benefit immediately from. I recommended choosing a strong color contrast to the white tiles, and she decided on dark blue vinyl coated bars that would have additional grip and antimicrobial properties. We chose bars that would be long enough to create a circle of support all along every wall, and installed dual purpose corner shelf grab bars to give the shampoo bottles an accessible place that was not a tripping hazard on the floor of the shower, but also give her an additional support. We installed these grab bars a few inches lower than what would be considered standard to accommodate her needs to have a flex posture to manage bowel hygiene. So how a person uses their personal space is not always an easy conversation, but it's an important conversation if you want to be able to make the best recommendations for their situation. The location of this toilet paper grab bar was deliberately placed at a height that would help cue her to shift her weight forward to help her with getting up off the toilet. We put in toilet rails around the toilet for safety due to the dystonia and the fears of falling. A bidet was installed to help with constipation through stimulation and also to manage smaller toileting issues. She did not have any difficulties with freezing, but she did have a tendency to take small steps. Since she was going to renovate later, this was a good solution to give her both temporary visual cueing and safety from falls. An additional bonus was that it was soft on her sensitive feet. This tape in black is especially great if you have white bathroom floors. So why do I think that a voice is important for home safety? Because if you can't get someone's attention, you can't get your needs met, and that's frustrating. Maybe you drop the remote and it's just out of reach now, or you need to use the bathroom urgently, but you can't make yourself heard. Maybe you're just so tired of having to ask for help all the time. The risk here is that the patient may just give up and address the problem themselves. I can't tell you how many patients I've had fall forwards out of their chair and end up with a giant goose egg or a row of stitches. Sometimes it just takes too much energy to use your voice. I often recommend a plug-in doorbell that can be attached to the wheelchair or worn around the neck. You can buy multiple transmitters and place them around the house. If you're a caregiver working at your job in the next room or you're gardening outside, they can get your attention easily. If there are issues with vision or weak hands, you can get a motion-activated driveway alarm instead, which will trigger an alarm as soon as the patient waves their hand in front of it. Alexa can be set up to turn on the lights or the TV. She also has a whisper mode and the ability to interpret different speech patterns. Consider technology to support caregiving by setting up reminders on the device that go on automatically. Let her do the work to remind the patient when to take the meds, when to drink extra water, when to get moving. This patient and her husband have been married for 50 years and they are high school sweethearts. They're so adorable together. So as many wives do, she worried about him needing to step over the tub to take a shower. And as many husbands do, he felt he didn't need shower bars in his bathroom. So despite the protest, she went ahead, ordered matching grab bars for his bathroom, and I sized them for his much taller height. We also ordered a shampoo shelf grab bar to keep his toiletries from falling off the tub edge that would cause a trip hazard. And we installed this towel bar grab bar as an additional handhold that he could use to get out of the tub. Wouldn't you know that when I did a follow-up visit to their home, he couldn't stop raving about how much he loved the grab bars, how much more secure he felt with them in, and how wonderful it was that he could find the grab bars even with soap in his eyes because of the color contrast. This illustrates the change I would love to see in our attitudes towards grab bars. Grab bars makes our spaces safer. They're not a sign of weakness, they're not a crutch, they're a safety feature, just like seatbelts in a car. If you could decrease your risk of injury in a car accident just by wearing seatbelts, why wouldn't you do it? Life is not about surviving, it's about thriving. A talk on home modification is not complete without considering what brings us joy and happiness. For this patient, she loved being around the healing power of nature, but because of the 2-inch lip on the patio door, she'd never been out there. That became her why. She could imagine herself enjoying her breakfast on the patio with her sweetheart, listening to the birds chirping in the mornings, feeling the breeze on her skin, and just watching the ducks swim around in the water. It was such an easy fix. 2 threshold ramps later, and her joy became her reality. Just a couple easy things you can do today. Look around for tripping hazards in the home and in the areas with visual clutter. Your goal is to have obstacle-free paths and visually open spaces. Find ways to get more light. Buy high lumen light bulbs, motion-activated lights. Build in exercise into your daily routine. Join a Rock Steady group on Zoom. Find a power therapist near you. Subscribe to Power for Parkinson's on YouTube. I want you to commit to moving every 30 minutes or less. Remember that moving water can't freeze. Find your why. What is important to you? Use your why to motivate you to be your best self. You can't change the fact that you have Parkinson's, but you do get to decide if you want to live a more fulfilled life. Every little bit counts. Small changes can add up to real progress quickly. Don't suffer alone. Ask for help. If you need a personal trainer to kickstart your fitness regime, do it. Ask for recommendations, referrals, talk to a support group, inspire each other. Have a neighbor move those heavy boxes out of the hallway. Call a handyman to fix that loose handrail. Hire someone to do a deep clean of your house. Don't let your paradise become your prison. Choose freedom. Choose the possibility of meaningful activities in your life again. Choose joy. Thank you guys so much. If you have any questions, I wanted you guys to put them in the chat box, and I'm going to be available to answer questions at the Q&A at 1:45. This is my contact information if you have any questions after the session. I want to encourage you to visit my website at evolvinghomesjax.com and watch the video posted on Alexa for Independence. That's a webinar I hosted with the Florida Assistive Technology, which is an amazing state program that has a lending library for iPads and other really cool tech. The best part about it is that it's completely free. They can train you on how to use technology to meet your goals, give you other ideas about things that you may not have thought about. I encourage everyone to take advantage of this. Thank you all for attending.